Greetings and blessings, everyone. Welcome to Lights for the Way podcast. I'm your host, James Thomas Devitt, and as always, we are sponsored by the Blue Star Spiritual Group. The Blue Star Spiritual Group is dedicated in assisting people to walk the path that they're here to walk. Joining me today is Tom Jacobs. Now, Tom and I were having a chat just recently, and we were talking about something that is really affecting a lot of star seeds, shall we say. Now, I started on this journey just over 31 years ago. It was actually 31 years ago on the 12th of November.
Congratulations.
Oh, yeah. Well, you were the one person
Yeah.
that actually congratulated me on that anniversary. So initially, when you first said it, I was like, what anniversary? Oh, yeah, that's right. So back in like the 70s and 80s and even into the early 90s, a lot of starseed were awakening and kind of has gone in cycles, if you will. Starting about 2 years ago, a new cycle of awakening has begun. There's been a lot of people who have been going through this awakening process in the last couple of years. So what Tom and I are going to be doing is today's show is all about spiritual journey of awakening. So how are you this morning, Tom?
I'm doing really well. Excited about this talk because I think it's something that will definitely be of great interest. And no, it's a beautiful day as far as weather, guys, goes up Wellington Way. We've got some beautiful wispy clouds, but the sun is shining through and we might hit the 20s today.
So that's where the sun is.
Yep, we
Because
got it.
it's cold down here in Dunedin today. To be
Oh,
honest, I'm even wearing a sweatshirt. It's I've got two layers on, so I'm actually quite chilled. I'm actually looking forward. I know the game's over, so please don't tell me who won. But I'm going to be watching the All Blacks game at 12 o'clock on Prime. So against
all
Scotland,
right.
should be a really good game. Every team that plays the All Blacks really gets up for the game because the All Blacks, of course, is the number one team in the world. So should be a really good game. I've actually been watching this morning, Tom. Ohio State versus Illinois,
Okay.
and it's kind of sad because at the end of the first quarter, Ohio State was up 28-0.
Oh, no.
And the last time I checked in, which was just before this call, was Ohio State was up 31-0, and it was like 12 minutes left to go in the second quarter.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Apparently, the point spread for the game is 41 points. I think they'll cover that and then some.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
But Ohio State's got a good team, and of course, Illinois traditionally, and they do not. So,
Yeah, well, there
okay,
you go.
so the first thing that we've got down here is what happens when someone starts awakening. Actually, before we go into that one, I think the better one to go first is this. What is awakening?
Right. What is awakening?
To me, it's different for each person because there are people that kind of seem like they're awakened from the beginning, and other people it's like something will happen and it will cause them to see things in a different light. When did you start awakening?
Uh, well, James, I started awakening probably, um, I did it in a kind of a unique way. I'll give just a little brief background to it. I was actually working in a card shop. Uh, what would be considered extraordinarily boring. Very few customers came in, but I just sat there. And what I did is I sat there with a pad of paper and a pencil, and I would write down questions that I had thought about in regards to my life, where I was going, truths that I was actually looking for. And then I would just sit and listen. And then as things came to me, I would start to write these things down. I would say that was probably the beginning of my awakening, because I started to actually see things, not so much so from the religious training that I had as I was growing up, but more so from a universal and spiritual point of view, that there was more to this reality than what I was actually seeing. So I would say that's probably where I first started.
Now, just out of curiosity, you grew up as a Christian,
I did.
as did I. Did you ever have a feeling like something was off?
I did, and that's it. It wasn't through any sense of judgment. It was just a placement of myself that I see. I actually went to Catholic school as well,
Oh, wow.
so I got the full load of exposure, and I I felt like a I felt like a misfit in many ways, and I just decided after a certain point that I needed to really kind of take a look at it, and I looked at it, and the greatest um, dichotomy that came up was that they were telling me that God was going to judge me, and yet they said that God was all loving. And I had real difficulty with that. And I said, well, either he's one or he's the other. And so I decided to believe in a God that was all love. And I told my parents, and you'll get a little bit of a giggle out of my timing, but I decided on Christmas Eve that I was no longer going to be going to church. That set well really well.
How old were you?
I was probably 17 at the
Yeah,
time, 17, 18.
very, very interesting. See, when I was growing up, I went to a Methodist church, which is really cool, and it was laid back. And I remember I was about 13, 14 years old, and we had gone on a mission trip to the bayous of Louisiana, and we had split up into two groups. And the group that my sister was in went to a school called Sager Brown and painted the cafeteria. And the group that I was in, we went into this community, which was literally on the bayou. Okay, I mean, it's like the men either built, maintained, or were shrimpers,
Mm,
and the women, I mean, it was literally like you'd walk across the street and there's the Gulf of Mexico. And we we dug a big hole for a septic system for the community.
mhm,
And the women, they made dolls and crafts and stuff to sell. These people didn't have hair dryers, they didn't have fancy TVs, they didn't have microwave ovens, they didn't have any of the modern conveniences per se, but they were some of the happiest people I ever met.
mm,
And then after that, the youth group only wanted to go on like ski trips. So my sister and I decided to go to a different church, which was a lot of kids from my high school was going to, and it was a Southern Baptist church. And I was very active. I mean, it was kind of funny because I was very active, and I had a very strong belief in God, which I still have, and everything like that. But it was like I was simply buying time. This is what you did when you were growing up in Oklahoma.
mm,
You went to church, and so I did that. My leaving was a little bit different from yours though, because it was a Sunday morning. We'd been to the service. I went to church 3 to 5 times a week, depending upon if there was a revival meeting or not. Because
yeah.
a revival was always Friday and Saturday evening, and we would go Sunday morning, Sunday evening, and Wednesday evening. I even taught Bible study, the whole 9 yards, was in all the church plays. And one Sunday, I'm about 17 or 18 years old. I'm talking to my sister. She is sitting in a pew next to the aisle, and I'm standing in the aisle talking to her. And Brother Paul Salyer, he was from Alabama. I love the fact that he was like, oh, yeah, I come from, we were so poor, we couldn't rub two dimes together, and he's wearing these custom-made suits and stuff like that. Anyway, he walks up and says hello to my sister and calls her by name and then turns to me and says, hi, I'm Brother Paul Salyer. Is this your first time here? And I was like, okay, I'm gone. And, but I mean, like I had a close encounter with an extraterrestrial and UFOs at the age of 13, and stuff like that. Saw UFOs everywhere that I've lived. So for me, it was like I was going to church because that was simply what you did where I was raised, because it's the Bible Belt, and it's
Yes.
just that's what you did. You went to church, so that's what I did.
Yeah.
And then that little incident with Brother Paul was the situation that caught me to say, I'm out of here. And so, and then after a few years, and because I went to many other churches trying to find a new quote unquote religious home without success. And so I just decided I would just back off for a while. And then, of course, a few years later, this would have been 82. And then in 86, of course, 4 years later, in November, my situation with my grandmother, who basically said, you will promise me that you will stay on the path that you were starting. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. You know how it is with grandparents. It's like, yes, ma'am, yes, sir.
Yes, exactly.
You're from the States. You understand that.
I do.
And that's a real Southern thing as well. I mean, I know you're from a little bit further north than I was, but
Yep.
That's still what you did, especially at our age. And when you were young, it's like that's what it was. So,
Yep. Yeah.
but there's a lot of people awakening now. So I mean, it can be so many different things. For you, it was questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that started your process. And for me, it's like I honestly think that because you see, what they're actually I need to pull something up because this topic and I thought about this the other day and I don't know why. Why I didn't think about it. So I mean, so what is awakening? Awakening is basically like where you realize, as you did, that there's much more than meets the eye.
And
And
what seems to be happening now, James, is even that awakening is in many ways, for at least from what I've been reading, from a lot of people's experiences, it just seems to be uh, a barrage of experiences that all of a sudden they're seeing their dead relatives, they're hearing things in their heads, they're sensitive to people's feelings around them. So it's even more dramatic, seems to be more dramatic now than it was back when you and I were awakening.
well, yeah, but I mean, the thing is, generally, what you have is normally when like during this time period, during this part right now where we have this situation where before you incarnate, it's like, okay, you're going to awaken at this point, and this will be the situation that occurs or whatever. And one of the things that I wanted to share with everybody and I'll try and make it quick. There's 20 of these, and some of these, you know, this is just a very generic thing, but can any of you relate to any of these? And as I say these, I want you to I want you, Tom, to think about, you know, are some of these things, can you relate to?
I will do that.
Okay, here we go. Now, this is basically like 20 signs that you may be a star seed or a light worker or a volunteer. And so there's 20 of them. Okay, so number one, you didn't fit in as a child and felt far different from other kids. You may have
Check.
been advanced as a child in some way, talking, walking, or reading much earlier than your peers. Now, I know for myself, I never fit in as a kid. I didn't really have any friends. I felt like the black sheep of my family. I actually thought I was adopted for a long time.
I as well felt very misplaced. If
Oh yeah. Now this is a good one, and this is something that I've heard so many who are either awakening or who have awakened say this one. Number two, you have a strong feeling of wanting to go home and have a feeling sense of what this home is like, even if you can't put it into words. Yep, that's me.
I probably experienced that later in life, where I started to realize that um, a disconnect, if you will, a feeling of disconnect from the planet Earth, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number three, you've had strong psychic and or paranormal experiences as a child, which continue into the present. Now, this can be anything from seeing spirits to seeing past the illusion, seeing into the future or beyond the lines of time, having prophetic dreams, seeing a UFO or having an alien encounter are all somewhat normal experiences for star seeds. Um, as someone who doesn't have inner vision, which makes doing my readings really kind of interesting at times, um, I do see past the illusion at times. I have seen a couple of ghosts. There have been times that I do see out of the lines of time. I don't really remember dreams, but UFOs. Oh yeah, I've had UFOs, alien encounters, and stuff like that.
I myself have, I can remember very distinctly seeing souls when I was young, but it was specifically at night I was able to see them more clearly. Other than that, most of the sensitivity that I had when I was young was, I think I've just covered it up because it was so much. And I've never actually, at least consciously, had any encounter with the UFOs, at least not as of yet.
Well, they actually took a picture I drew when I was 13, which was quite fun. Quite fun. And then there was Hal. I think I've told you the story of Hal. Hal was he wasn't born on this planet, but I met him in Long Beach in '86. And as far as I knew, he worked for the same airline as I did, although he didn't work in reservations. I don't really recall how we met or how we became such great friends, but we did. And the thing is, though, we didn't really hang out a lot. We would talk at work a lot. And then my grandmother passed away on November 30th of '86. And then on Christmas Eve, he came to our house, and my roommate Lexi and I and Hal decided to party because we were commiserating the fact that we couldn't be at home for Christmas. And at 2 in the morning, he told me that I didn't come from this planet, that I came from elsewhere. And to be honest with you, what really surprised me later on wasn't what he said. What surprised me was my reaction to what he said, which was, yeah, okay. It was like, I knew it was true. It
Yeah,
wasn't a big deal. It was like, yeah, okay. Yeah. And,
yeah.
you know, and then it's like he went upstairs to crash at 5 in the morning along with Lexi, who was pretty drunk at that point. I waited till 5:30 when a friend of ours came. She came to our house because I was giving her a ride to the airport because she was getting to fly home on Christmas morning. And by the time I got back to the house, I was back at the house by 10 to 6. Hal was gone, and I've never seen or talked to him again. Well, that's not
Wow.
true. I've never seen him again or talked to him here.
Yeah.
He does come through now and then. And if you want, if you go onto our page, Blue Star Spiritual, you'll actually see some messages from him. His name
Mm.
is Miloth.
Of course, yes.
So, yeah. Now, the next one is number 4, you're highly sensitive, sometimes to what seems a fault. For myself, I'm not overly sensitive, um, but I know many people are.
Yeah. And I would say the same for myself, as I don't find myself to be extraordinarily sensitive. When I tune in, no problems, but I don't, it's like I'm not walking around getting bombarded.
No, and kind of goes in with number 5. You're strongly empathic and can feel the emotions of others and possibly hear their thoughts, allowing you to easily read people. Well, I find it fairly easy to read people, but I don't really, I don't generally tap in a whole lot into their emotions of others. I am empathic towards other people. I have a lot of empathy, but I don't get overwhelmed by it.
Right.
They say like empaths get overwhelmed, and I don't get overwhelmed or anything like that. And number 6, communication may seem slow and sometimes painful for you when you already know what the other person is going to say sometimes before they even do. That's Janice in a nutshell, man. I come from the South, okay? We talk slowly in the South. We do, all right? It's just part of being a Southerner. And it's like I'd be talking to Janice and she would get so annoyed. She's like, I completed this conversation 10 minutes ago and you're still telling the story.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
So, and number 7, you have a deep inner wisdom and you feel timeless. Maybe you've even had dreams or memories of off planet past lives and experiences in totally different dimensions and ways of existing. Definitely true for me.
I would agree the same with myself. There are times where I just know.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely. Number 8, you have a strong sense of your personal mission. Even if you don't know what it is yet, you have the burning desire or feeling that you're meant to do something big. And that is true because, I mean, like, although I don't really go into it, Janice is my twin flame,
Mhm.
and we had a planetary mission that transcended all of our lifetimes, which we completed a couple of years ago. And once that was completed, technically we could have probably left the planet, but we were asked to stay. We decided to stay, and so our new mission is basically, although we're doing it in very different ways, our new mission is assisting people to walk the path that they're here to walk. So, yeah.
Yeah. For myself, I've often had that, real burning desire. And interestingly enough, no matter what I did, I always felt like I was being of service to people. That was a primary driving force. And I think that no matter, like I said, no matter what I did, I was successful from it because I cared and worked from probably a bigger picture in supporting people.
Yeah, yeah. My tagline for myself for a really long time, for a long, long time, was I'm on this planet to be of service. And although I used to get really annoyed and agitated over not being able to do this work full time, it was all because it wasn't time to do it. And I realized about 6 months or no, I realized about a year ago the fact that I did customer service work for 30 years. I've done over 15 years in call centers. Been a trainer for over 15 years. I've been a manager and a team lead, supervisor. You know what I realized? My entire working life, I've been helping people.
There you
So
go.
that, and almost every single starseed that I've ever spoken to, if you ask them the one thing that they want to do more than anything, I want to help people.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a common theme. Now, number 9 is a big no from me. You have intense and vivid dreams that often take place in places and times which are off planet. Some of these dreams are so vivid they seem more real than reality. I've had one dream that I'm aware of that I would say was off planet, but I so rarely remember dreams that I don't know. What about you, Tom?
Yeah, I honestly, I do have quite a few dreams. Some that I are significant that I do remember, but they're not off planet. I would have to say that's a quantification for me, is that they're pretty standard dreams. A lot of times, where I think one of the neatest dreams I have is when I'm flying. It's just such an
Actually,
exhilarating
that's
thing.
another sign that you're a volunteer.
Mm, yeah.
These flying dreams. Now, a friend of mine, I wish I had his ability, man. He can be vividly dreaming something, wake up, go in and use the toilet, come back, get back into bed, go back to sleep, and pick up the dream where he left off.
Whoa.
Now, I've very few people that I think he's like the only person I've met that can do that, and I know that there's not a lot of people that can do that, but he definitely is. Now,
Mm,
number 10, small children and babies seem to be fascinated by you, like they're able to see your uniqueness and your bright light. Now, I got to say that rings true for me because, like, I'll see a baby and it's like mom and dad's not even paying attention. The baby's looking at me and just giggling.
mm.
I was at the shop at Countdown the other day, and there was a lady in front of me with this little baby, and she's in this like um, car seat type thing in the trolley, and it was so fascinating because like mom is like, oh well, she's kind of in a bad mood today, and she's been really cranky, and I'm looking at the little one, and I'm going, oh hello there, how you doing? And I wave at her, and she starts giggling and smiling, and she's got this huge smile on her face, and it's just amazing. And I've had this with many different babies. They'll have a look at me and just start smiling, and so yeah, that's definitely definitely true. Number 11, you have a deep connection with nature, plants, animal, and the physical elements, and you seem to be able to communicate with them on a level. Um,
Hmm.
I do have a deep connection with Mother Earth, with Gaia, and that's true. And I mean, it is true, but I don't know.
That was probably where my when I can remember times just walking and being out in nature. That was my uh, grounding, if you will. And even now, even more so, just going out and I feel a real connection with Mother Earth, stronger than I ever have. And being able to listen to the trees and the plants, it just seems I know it sounds a little bit weird, but it's just one of those connections that I seem to have nowadays.
No, yeah. I like this one. This is a really good one. Number 12. You don't fit in with society. Others consider you to be strange, weird, or different, and maybe somewhat wary of you. God, that suits me to a freaking T. I mean, we've got it so bad. It's like um, I say that Janice is strange and I'm stranger, but I'm crazy and she's crazier. Um, so I mean, and this kind of fits in as well. It's like
Mm,
number 13. You may not have many friends, and those who you do connect with, you seem to have a deep and complex relationship which spans time and space.
yeah.
Those two suit me to a T because I mean, I know I'm strange and weird, and there are a lot of people that I've had people. I mean, I'm a nice guy. I really am. I treat everyone with respect and dignity and all of this stuff with love, and that's really important to me. I would give my if really really required, I'd give the shirt off my back for somebody, you know.
Yep.
And I've got people out there who are scared. They're terrified of me, and I can't figure out why. But I know it's my energy, but yeah, it's really really kind of strange. Now this one I can really relate to, and I'm not sure about you because I'm not sure what happened, on Christmas Eve when you're telling mom and dad, well, I'm not going to church anymore. But number 14, you may even feel alienated by your parents and immediate family, like they just don't get you and you don't get them. You may have even wondered at times if you were adopted. What was I saying? What was I saying, Tom?
Exactly
I
that.
oh
I I had a wonderful relationship with my parents because I I was very compassionate. I loved them, and I knew what they were going through. So I think that uh, they thought I was weird. They definitely thought I had lost my crackers and that I had joined a cult. So um, but they also respected me enough to know that I was gonna still have to do what I had to do.
hey,
So
there was one point when I was a teenager where that my grandfather thought I should go to a psychiatrist.
mm,
So number 15, you're very aware of energy and how the energy of others can affect you. You've likely created energetic protection techniques to be able to handle being around others, and even still large crowds or busy places can energetically overwhelm you. Now that's very, very true. I mean, like in Kilburnie, which is up in Wellington, of course, Janice and I would go to Pack and Save. And I don't know what it was about that particular Pack and Save because I know that Pack and Save in Petone wasn't this way. The Pack and Save we go to here in Dunedin is definitely not that way. But in Kilburnie, it's like you'd go in to do your grocery shopping, and by the time you were at the checkout, you were angry because the energy was so dense and just so nasty.
mm, mm.
Now, I want to, at this particular point, I want to share a couple of little techniques, which is really, really good around this. So, because I mean, I've created these protection techniques 20 years ago, and they're very, very simple to use. Number one is what we call the mirror technique. Now, this is a real fun one. You have 4 panels of mirrors, and they are wider than you are. You put one in front of you, one behind you, and one on either side, and you connect them together. And then you infuse it through your intention, and it's very simple. It's like, only those energies, which is for my highest and greatest good, is allowed to pass through the mirror. All other energies will get reflected back to whoever sends it. And that includes cords. Anyone who's trying to cord me, it will go back to them. So that's a very simple, very easy technique to use. Now, the other one is what I term the bubble technique. And that's basically where you put an energetic bubble around you. And anything that's thrown your way just bounces off and goes back to the person that sent it. So those are two techniques that are really, really easy to use. Number 16, yep. You have natural psychic gifts and channeling or energy healing abilities. Well, I've been channeling for over 28 years, and I've been doing healings for over 28 years. So I would say that's a yes for me.
I haven't ventured into the channeling part. I have been probably healing for, uh, probably, I would say, in the ballpark of 30 years.
There you go.
Yeah,
And
on and off.
I'm actually going to be the Blue Star Academy, the Hogwarts for starseeds. We're actually going to be teaching an opening to channel class starting in February.
Great.
And so if people want to do that class, it's going to be $20 a class. It is limited. It'll be done online. So it's an online course, so you don't have to be living in Dunedin to do it. I did a course at my home as well as an online course last year, and the maximum I can have is 5 people. I've already got one person signed up for it, and they basically came to me and said, I want to do this, and so it's like, yep, no problem. So if you want to do that, you can send it through an email to Blue Star Groups. No, I'm sorry, groups. Blue Star Workshops at gmail.com, and we can have a look at that. Or you can just come onto the page and send me a message. That'll work as well.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Now, 17, you have a deep understanding of the greater workings of the universe and of the divine which comes from within you. For myself, that is a big, big, big yes.
Yeah, and I have to agree. I feel the same way. It's just almost a natural understanding of how things are actually working. But that being said, I'm still developing. I'm still expanding that awareness and wisdom as well.
Actually, I'd actually correct that.
Okay.
You're simply still remembering.
Thank you. Well put. Well put.
Okay. Number 18, you know you are a starseed and your true origin is not as a human. You may even know of a planet or galaxy in which you've spent most of your time. Well, yeah, that's been me for most all of my life.
I personally didn't know anything about that until just recently, so that's a new one for me. But I'm working with it and understanding it, remembering it.
I knew you weren't from here when the first time I met you. And of course, with Anita, she's doing those amazing starseed readings that I don't know, man. It's like for me, I'm bad with names, but she can get person's name and the planet they come from, and it's just amazing. You know, you're here from the stars to serve humanity and Earth and reach the higher dimensions, and you are actively taking steps to remember more of your soul's truth and to accomplish your purpose as a star being. And that's so very true, and I know it's true for you as well. And then, of course,
Absolutely.
number 20, you know that you're more than just a physical being, and that your true essence is as a spiritual light being. And so those are the 20 physical or 20 signs that you may be a star seed in the physical, all right? Now, very, very fascinating. And I would say almost all of those I relate to.
Mm.
I really do.
Yeah, I find that I relate with most of those as well.
Now, the second part was what happens when someone awakens. Well, it can be very disconcerting, to be honest with you, because for some people, when they awaken, they might lose their relationship. They might get ostracized by their family. They might lose friends. I have seen this happen over and over and over again. it's very disconcerting when you have somebody who awakens and they start realizing that they are so much more than they thought they were, and yet their partner doesn't see any of it and actually classifies them as being in a cult, or saying that they've gone off the deep end, they've gone crazy, they need to be locked up. So it can be very trying and very debilitating in many ways.
I couldn't agree with you more. I find that a lot of people are hungry for a relationship of people or peoples that they can actually relate with. They feel very alone.
Very, very much so. Um, does awakening require activation? That's an interesting one because usually it's an activation that occurs, which which creates the awakening.
Yes.
And of course, the activation can be almost anything, from a conversation to an accident to whatever it might be. When does the soul awaken? Now, the soul is already awakened. The soul knows things. The soul knows things that we don't know or don't realize consciously. And the other one here is, can anyone awaken? That's a paradox, because on one side it's yes, on the other side it's no. Living here in Dunedin it's been very, very interesting because there's a lot of star seeds here in Dunedin, and for the most part they're asleep,
Mm.
but they're placeholders. They're holding the energy for the planet, and that's why there's so many here. But they're not really awakened. But some are like awakened just a little bit. Like, we have really good friends of ours. I was hanging out with him yesterday. Their symbol is the affinity symbol, and when they came together, they started seeing 1111 all the time. Both of them.
Yep.
But let me tell you, they are not awakened per se.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah. So, I mean, basically, like the processes for further awakening is learning to utilize the natural gifts that we're given, because like not everyone is destined to become a reader or a medium or a healer or doing tarot readings, stuff like that. It's not necessary to walk a spiritual path, as you and I have spoken about. And you and I are going to be teaching the spiritual development course in starting in February or whatnot, either February or March. And there's not one bit about it about like learning to be a reader or
Yeah.
learning how to do the tarot. It's all
Correct.
about walking a spiritual path. And if you're
Yep.
destined to do that, you will do it, and it won't be a struggle. It won't be hard. It'll just be natural. Um,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on that. I think we're going to find that readers and healers actually are going to become things of the past. It'll be that everyone will be discovering their own innate abilities to do these things, and they won't require anyone to be doing these readings. Now, when and how that's going to come into transition, I can't tell you that, but I see that as the way the world is going to actually work. It's so important for people just simply to relax, enjoy themselves, reach for the highest energy that they can, and just be themselves, and don't worry about being quote unquote spiritual.
no, I agree. And the thing is, and this is where some people get a little confused. We have Reiki as an example, right? Now, Reiki is a beautiful healing modality. If I were to get up on a table and have a Reiki treatment by any Reiki master on the planet, doesn't matter who they are, I'd probably come off the table feeling probably as good as I do after I've had a Thai massage, but it's not going to make any difference. And the thing is, and I know that a lot of people will probably be angry with me over that comment, but to be honest with you, Dr. Yasui, who brought through the information on Reiki and initially began teaching it and everything like that, it was designed to assist starseed in releasing, letting go, and in their awakening. It
Hmm.
was all part of getting people to a point where the phase one of Project Earth could be completed. Now that that's been completed, that's where like the Blue Star Healing Method comes in, and there's going to be some other healing modalities that will be introduced on this planet. I would say probably within the next 2 or 3 years. But you know, and I've said this for a long time. In 50 years' time, I don't think there's going to be much in the way of channelers or mediums or any of that stuff anymore,
Hmm.
because it's going to get to a point. It's not where like native humans are going to awaken, because they can't awaken from something that they haven't experienced yet. They haven't experienced the ascension. They haven't experienced the evolution like starseeds have. But it's going to get to a point where all of a sudden things will begin to change on this planet. We'll actually, I personally believe, we will actually get to a point where we won't be using money anymore. There won't be any poverty. There won't be homeless people. You know, crime will go way down. People will be able to follow more along the lines of what really is their passion and do that kind of work. Um, I mean, it's not here right now. It's probably not going to be here in 10 years, but it is where this planet is heading.
I
So
agree.
I feel very blessed that I've been able to channel for so long, and I'm still channeling. And I know people are really enjoying the channelings from El Sharon that's been coming through. We've had two now. We've got another one coming up on Monday, the 27th of November. It's going to be a really good one. You and I are going to be doing a podcast in December based around 4 star seeds on how to handle the holidays and things like that, which will be a really good show as well.
I think so.
Now, is there anything else you want to share about this topic today? I know that we could probably keep going for quite a long time on it, but yeah.
Well, I think it's probably a good place to end, James. What we could do is just there's so much more. There's some pitfalls that I'd like people to become a little bit aware of, but I think just in all, I think if we can communicate out through this podcast that number one, you're not alone. If you're a star seed, if you're a volunteer, you're definitely not alone.
No.
And to just relax with yourself, relax during this awakening time, if you will. Um, if you've always got the ability to communicate with us for support to help you understand. So I think going through those 20 steps helps clarify with people where they are, and this will give them a good springboard to know that they are on their way.
And also, I'm going to be doing a video fairly soon with regards to our services, and that's the services that Tom does, and myself, Anita, and Catherine. But just based on what our topic is today, Anita Davies does the most amazing starseed readings. I know you've had one, Tom,
I have.
and
It,
she's
it,
done one for me as well, and they are beyond amazing. And so, if you are interested in having that, then I would suggest you could either email at Akashic and Skype sessions at gmail.com, or send us a message through our page, Blue Star Spiritual, on Facebook, and we will call that a day. And everyone, have a beautiful, beautiful weekend. It's a Sunday here, and it's going to be good. Um, I know that you won't really care about this because we're in the moment, but this will be uploaded later on this afternoon. I have a date with the All Blacks in Scotland, so love and blessings to everyone. Have a
It's
great
true.
day. Tom, say
Thank you,
goodbye.
buddy. Yep. Thank you very much. Enjoy your game.
Take care, everyone.
Yeah, and take care.